I'm gonna give you 4 key factors behind training wrestlers in season, and we're gonna start right now. What's up everybody, it's Dane Miller from GarageStrength.com, and if this is your first time to the channel and you wanna be a freak athlete, you wanna be explosive, strong, and you wanna be a beast wrestler as well, make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you ring that notification bell so we can help you become a champion. So over the years, we've developed multiple state champions here in the state of Pennsylvania at Garage Strength. We've developed multiple NCAA All-Americans. We've helped develop and train 2-time world bronze medalist Nick Gwiazdowski. And one of the biggest questions that we get asked all the time, and one of the biggest errors we also see in training wrestlers, is what to do in season. Oftentimes, coaches, especially at the high school level and the collegiate level, tend to back off too much too early in their in-season training. And that leads to a little bit early of a peak. Their peak comes in early on in their postseason, and then when they need to be at their top end performance, they might be a little flat. So the in-season aspect of training for wrestlers is extremely important for long-term success, and that leads us into those 4 key factors. That first key factor is to know the strength of the opponents that you are wrestling, that your individuals are wrestling, that your entire team is wrestling. Know that early on, it's more important to get training in than it is to worry about their outcome. Obviously, if we have a beginner wrestler, we want them to win those matches easily, or at least get through those matches and feel good about the sport. But if we've got an elite level wrestler that can place at states and go deep into the postseason, it's important that early on training takes priority. That means hammering them in the wrestling room, and that also means maintaining what they're doing in the weight room, maintaining their strength, improving their explosiveness. So it's very, very important to analyze that strength of schedule. If you're wrestling some schlubs, somebody who's not as good, take advantage of that time, take advantage of that week, try and hammer some training during that week. And then also, as a coach, take note of how your wrestlers are responding. If they're beat up and they're fatigued from the weight room, but they still go out and they wrestle pretty well, keep that in your back pocket so that you know later on when you get into the first or second round of the postseason, you can still continue to train through that point as long as your wrestlers respond well. Make sure that you know that strength of schedule. That's the most important aspect behind continuing to train hard in season. That second key factor is to utilize the big lifts and to know those big lifts. One of the things that I've prided myself on is knowing what movements, what rep schemes Gwiz handles really well, so that when we're peaking and going into world championships, or when he's peaking to wrestle for that spot on the Olympic team, we know what lifts and what rest periods he needs to feel really good. So at the high school level, if you're dealing with wrestlers, try to figure out how do they respond to bigger squats, how do they respond to power snatches, power cleans, whatever it might be, pull-ups, all of these things. Utilize those big lifts consistently, okay? Hammer the big lifts. They don't need to be in the weight room for more than 40, 45 minutes when they're in season, especially if you're hitting a big clean or a big snatch and then they're doing some good back squat work. Now you've got a really good in-season lift. They're doing their main lifts and they're going to feel good, and you've got to, as a coach, take note of how they're responding to those key big lifts. So before we head into the third and fourth aspect, we utilize all these principles inside of our 12-week in-season strength training program that's available at GarageStrength.com. You can click on that link down below to get more information, but let's keep rolling. That third key aspect is to maintain creatine and protein intake. Too often we see wrestlers just cutting way too much weight. They're getting pathetically weak. They can barely even walk to the scale. And then we expect them to perform very, very well, and that's just absurd. We need to stop training our wrestlers that way and realize creatine is going to help them with their force production. It's going to help them with their skill set when they're on the mat. We're going to be able to see them taking better shots, more risks that are more calculated when they're taking creatine. This has been shown as a fact In combat fighters, MMA fighters that are taking creatine have better striking accuracy, and this will transfer tremendously well to the sport of wrestling. But we've also got to make sure that their protein intake is high enough so that they can handle, one, wrestling practice, and two, they can handle the work that we're going to be doing in the weight room so that they feel good as they work through that long season. That fourth key factor, make sure that their endurance is properly trained. Train their endurance properly. Don't beat these kids up. Don't just kill them because it's fun to watch them suffer. What we need to understand is that heavyweight wrestlers with endurance-based training need to have more cyclical-based endurance work. Get on the assault bike, get on the rower, do some swimming. That's going to help them maintain joint integrity. They're going to feel better. Long duration work is going to pay off tremendously with those heavier weights. Now, when we're talking about our lighter weights, use interval-based training. Use interval-based training 1 to 2 times a week to try and mimic when they're on the mat doing scrambles or anything along those lines. Make sure that you're utilizing the right style of endurance-based training for that specific weight class. These are different athletes. They operate differently. They have different sizes, and we've got to make sure that they're trained as optimally as possible. So make sure that you know that strength of schedule. You understand the big lifts. You continue to push good nutrition, good creatine consumption, good protein consumption. Make sure that they're getting about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and then ultimately make sure that you're training that endurance as effectively as possible. If you want more information about wrestling, you can click on this video right here. Until next time, guys, peace.